US President Joe Biden is in Jeddah for the last leg of his whirlwind West Asia tour. Biden made history by taking a direct flight from Tel Aviv to Jeddah. This after Riyadh paved the way for Israeli planes to use its airspace by announcing that it was lifting restrictions on all carriers. So what about his reception? Biden landed at the King Abdulaziz International Airport. The Saudi King Salman and Crown Prince MBS were not there to greet the president. Instead, he was greeted by the governor of Mecca and the Saudi ambassador to the United States. Joe Biden is in Saudi Arabia for a limited amount of time, so he clearly had no time to waste. From the airport, the motorcade headed directly to Jeddah's Al Salam Palace. Biden was then greeted by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman at the palace. The two were seen exchanging a fist bump before heading to the meeting. Now, remember, Biden had promised to make Saudi Arabia a pariah state on the campaign trail. But rising oil prices have changed his position. Not only has Biden softened his attitude towards Riyadh, he's now meeting the Crown Prince. The president's issue with the kingdom goes back to the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. The Biden administration blames MBS for orchestrating the killing. He also released files implicating Saudi officials in the attack. Joe Biden has also pitched democracy versus autocracy as an important feature of his foreign policy. He even convened a summit of democracy last year. So this meeting with the Crown Prince raises multiple questions about Biden's commitments. Clearly, the war in Russia and the subsequent energy crisis has forced the president to abandon his initial campaign promises. For MBS, this is a diplomatic coup. He was shunned by Western leaders after the Khashoggi incident, but now he's back at the high table of diplomacy. Today's talks are likely to cover a vast range of issues. Chief among them will be oil, the Iran nuclear deal, and normalization talks with Israel. And for more updates, joining us now is our correspondent Susan Tehrani. She joins us live from New York. Susan, thanks for joining us. Now, as we've been reporting, President Biden is on the most talked about leg of his West Asia tour, Saudi Arabia. It was once his endeavor to make Saudi a pariah state. And he's now hoping that diplomacy will work and convince Saudi to pump more oil. What does he hope to achieve?
So we heard just right before he landed in Saudi Arabia that the president is not expected to make any announcement regarding oil. Instead, he's going to leave those announcements after OPEC member states meet later in August for September output. And one of those reasons is because OPEC member states and Saudi Arabia being its de facto leader has already agreed to raise inputs for the month of July and August. So that leaves the question exactly what does Biden hope to achieve, and perhaps many believe that it would be on the security front. Saudi Arabia really needs air defense from the United States, and the United States needs to convince its Arab allies, notably Saudi Arabia, that it has not abandoned them and has secured their security interests in mind. Also, the United States is concerned because of the vacuum that it left not only in Afghanistan less than a year ago, but also in the Middle East, that vacuum is being filled by China. In the past 4 years alone, because the United States, for the most part, has refused to sell drones to Saudi Arabia, for example, the sale of arms from China to Saudi Arabia has raised by 400%. That reality is not lost in Joe Biden's mentality. And then you have the other meeting of GCC member states that are going to be meeting with the United States. They want to make sure that the United States is committed to them. They want to see whether or not this meeting is going to be transactional, because that's how it seems. On the one hand, this administration has been ignoring these countries for the most part, notably Saudi Arabia, regarding the Jamal Khashoggi case, not picking up their phone when they were in need, when the Houthis were bombarding their oil refineries from Yemen, when the Saudis reached out for them regarding that, and then on the other hand, coming for them when they need them.
Right.
So, it seems like, first of all, it is a PR meeting for both bin Salman and Joe Biden. But on the other hand, if you want to take an optimistic note, it may be a resetting of relations, and Joe Biden may have, something to come back home to, saying that he's hoping to normalize some sort of relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia.
Right, but Susan, the subject of journalist Khashoggi's death remains a controversial topic, of course. Will it be discussed? That's a big question. Human rights seems to be a focus of this meeting.
President Biden is not the first president to take the issue of human rights and be idealistic on the campaign trail. The problem is he went in office, he was faced with the reality of the Middle East on the one hand, as horrific as the issue of Jamal Khashoggi was, taking that issue into the Oval Office and isolating an ally like Saudi Arabia, has had many problems for him, and he's realized that, and he's being bombarded and blasted by members of his own party and the Republican Party. He says that human rights is going to come up during the discussion. Let's bear in mind that Saudi Arabia has denied having that involvement, and Mohammed bin Salman hopes to move past this Khashoggi case like it did with France, for example, with Turkey. Whether or not the United States will move past this, we'll wait and see. But the United States and Saudi Arabia have had difficult issues in the past. After 9/11, picture was not very rosy either. Also in the 70s regarding oil embargoes, it wasn't either. We'll have to wait and see whether President Biden will come back full-handed regarding human rights. People aren't very optimistic.
Right, Susan, thanks so much for all those inputs. Thanks for joining us on WION at this hour. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.